Your life looks good from the outside, but privately, you're hiding because being fully seen doesn't feel safe. The moment you're called to step forward in public, speak up in a group, or let yourself be visible, you dim your light, you play small, and you shrink yourself because somewhere along the way, you learned that standing out came with a cost. You may tell yourself, I'm just shy, I'm low key, or I don't need a lot of attention. But underneath it all is a quiet fear of being fully seen. You hold yourself back in meetings, in groups, in rooms where your voice matters. You stay hyper aware of how you're being perceived, trying to avoid judgment, and you shrink yourself before anybody else gets the chance to criticize you. This isn't a confidence issue. It's an adaptation. Early in life, you may have learned that being fully yourself brought criticism, rejection, or disapproval. So your nervous system adapted. Being less visible felt safer. You learned to blend in, to stay quiet, and hold parts of yourself back, to hide in plain sight. Physically, you were present, but not fully showing your true self. But what once protected you as a child can quietly keep you small as an adult. Because every time you suppress your voice, hide your gifts, or hold back who you truly are, you deepen the disconnect between the person you know yourself to be and the life you're living. And that disconnect creates a quiet, ongoing internal conflict that you try to ignore. And slowly, your life becomes less about expressing yourself and more about protecting yourself, playing it safe. Less about being seen and more about avoiding judgment. I know this pattern personally. Growing up, my mom, she was a stickler for being proper. Lower your voice. Don't draw too much attention to yourself. That's not ladylike. I know she was trying to prepare me for a good life, but what I heard as a child was something about the way I am was like too much. So I learned to make myself smaller, and that followed me into adulthood. I became an attorney, I traveled the world, I built a life that looked good on the outside, but parts of me were still hiding, still holding back, and still afraid to be fully seen. I learned how to be visible without being fully seen. And changing that pattern did not change overnight. It began in small moments, the moments when I noticed I was about to hide again. So, how do you begin healing the fear of being seen? Not by forcing yourself into the spotlight. It begins in those small moments when you catch yourself starting to shrink. When you hold back what you really want to say, when you fade into the background, when you tell yourself, maybe next time I'll share. That's the moment to pay attention because that's when your old protection pattern is pulling you back into hiding. So instead of automatically following it, pause, ask yourself, what would it look like to not hide right now? Maybe you say what you actually think instead of simply going along. Maybe you share your creative idea that you usually keep hidden. Or maybe you allow yourself just to take up a little more space instead of fading into the background. It may not feel comfortable at first. In fact, part of you will still want to pull back into hiding. That doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It simply means you're doing something different. You're expanding. You're learning that discomfort doesn't have to decide whether you show up as yourself. Most people think you need confidence before you can express yourself. They got it backwards. Self-expression is what builds confidence. Every time you allow a little more of yourself to be seen, you strengthen your trust in your voice, in your ideas, in your presence. And little by little, you begin creating a life that reflects who you truly are. Because the more you fully show up, the more you fully get to be alive. So if you're ready to begin living with more freedom, more authenticity, and more you, subscribe to this channel. Each Tuesday, I explore various protective patterns so you can understand them, move beyond them, and show up as your true self.